Well, good morning, everyone. Welcome back to HR Repair. Today we have a little bit of a different truck in the shop. It is a 1986 Mazda B2000. It's the SE-5 model. Don't know a whole lot about these things except they are stripped down work trucks. Usually a pretty reliable work truck. This one's actually a pretty clean one. Doesn't have a lot of rust. I mean, it's got some frame surface rust, but nothing that's going to put this thing out of service. So, this thing is a nice little truck. Customer just bought this thing not too long ago. He bought it knowing that it's got an antifreeze leak, and the customer, or the previous owner, told him that he thinks it's a head gasket. So let's get into this thing and see if we can figure out, is it a head gasket or what's actually going on with this truck. Contact. So he said it's around the back, that there's antifreeze sitting on the back of the engine there. Said that he's pretty sure it's the head gasket and it's leaking out of the back. Now we do have a heater pipe coming around the back, and as you can see, there is some antifreeze sitting right here. So I want to make sure that we don't have this heater pipe that's leaking, and by doing that, we're going to have to get around the back side. I think it's going to be best if we use this mirror. So let's get you set up here. See if I can do this. A light, a mirror, and camera. All right, so first of all, let's make sure we don't have anything around the front here. And there is no antifreeze on the front side here. It looks like it's had a valve cover that leaked for a while, because the valve cover is completely clean. So I think they've just recently changed that gasket. So we're probably still got some residue from that, but what we're concerned about is around the back side here, and we want to make sure that the heater pipe is not leaking, making it look like a head gasket. Now this thing runs perfect. There's no problem with the running of this thing. So we take a mirror and we look. I don't know if I can even see it myself. Okay, so the pipe is dry, and we can see where it's seeping out of the head gasket. The pipe is dry. Thought maybe it could be an easy fix, but no, that wouldn't be the case here, would it now? Honestly, it's not bad. These heads come off of here easily, as long as, oh, there we go, perfect. Yeah, we can see. Let's bring you guys over here. I'm gonna have to multitask. This will have to be a little bit more of a high dollar production here. You see that? Right around there. I hope that we don't have a cracked head. I don't know, but we can see where it's actually leaking out of in between the head and the head gasket there. Dry on the pipe there. So we've definitely got a head gasket. We're back on this B2000, and let's take a look at this thing. I can tell you by the way cylinder number 4 looks, the piston there, that thing was burning some antifreeze. Now the question is, why was it burning antifreeze? Well, that's a good question. It looks like one might have been just a little bit. Don't worry about this antifreeze sitting in here. That's inconsequential. What happens with a piston when it's burning antifreeze is that you will see a little bit of, steam cleaning. So The two center ones definitely not, but this one here had quite a bit. This one had just a little bit. And I will tell you that I think that this job has been done before. And I am going to say that cleaning the block was not a top priority for the previous person that did it, because there is some, I mean, this could be from the gasket that I just pulled off of there. However, the gasket was very loose. There's still a fair amount of material here. Same way with back here. There's actually quite a bit right there. You can't really see it, but I can feel it. Gonna take my word for it. I know sometimes that's hard to do. There's also some junk in that hole. This bolt, this head bolt was not tight at all. So we're going to need to check that, make sure that we didn't have a problem there. I believe one of these front ones was loose as well. Now, let's take a look at this. We see that there's some junk built up there, but this gasket is in pretty bad shape on the bottom side. This was the part that was on the block, and this tore up pretty good actually. Now this side isn't too bad. I mean, you can still see the Fel-Pro print to seal. So the other thing we're going to do is we're going to make sure that this head is flat. By doing, or the way we do that is by taking it to Donnelly Automotive Machine in Decatur, and they're going to plane it down for us. So we're going to make sure that this thing's completely flat, and then I'm going to make sure that the block is flat. Actually, we're going to make sure the block is flat before we make sure that this is flat, because if the block is not flat, we are in deep trouble. So, let's take a straight edge. We're going to check the block. If the block is okay, then we're good to go ahead and work on the head here. But hopefully, we're not going to be sticking a new motor in this thing. Hopefully, this is just going to be a head issue. Maybe somebody didn't tighten their gasket correctly. Yeah, I guess we'll figure it out. All right, so we're back on this truck and we're cleaning up the deck mating surface here, because we need to make sure that this block is perfectly flat. I did go ahead and kind of off camera clean this all up here. You want this to be very clean. Nothing, like you should be able to run your finger across there and not feel any kind of ridge or anything like that. So what I did to begin with is use this carbide scraper, and we just cleaned everything off that was there that I could scrape off. Then, and I know this is controversial, but I've done it for years and years and never had a problem. So I did it again today. But I used one of these light duty Scotch-Brite pads, and you just very lightly go over everything. Don't sit in one place very long, but you just want to go across everything. And I know people are going to say that I've got dirt down in these passages. Tell me, how are you going to keep dirt out of those passages? That's antifreeze. It's not running in the oil. It'll be fine. Do I like it? No, but I'm not going to stuff little paper towels in each little port there. Now, here's the other thing that we want to do is we want to check for flatness. So get yourself a straight edge. Make sure that everything is flat here. And just don't put a lot of pressure on it unless you've got a really strong straight edge, and just go across there. Now I have went across here. We couldn't get any feeler gauges in underneath here. So this deck surface is flat. My question is, why did this thing leak when it's obvious someone else has been in here and done the exact same thing? The last thing I want to do is put this thing back together and have the same problem that we had, that the other person had. I don't know. I can't really, I haven't found the smoking gun that tells me this is what happened. This is why this thing was leaking. Except, if you remember, I told you that this head bolt was not tight. And I believe there was another one here somewhere that wasn't tight. Why wasn't it tight? I don't know. Did someone not torque the head down? Or did they not clean each passage out? So these things, you should be able, when you put the head back down, you should be able to take by hand and screw every one of those head bolts in without any effort. It should just go in and out. If you have to take and run a thread chaser through each of those ports, you've got to do it. Those things have to be clean, and the threads have to be good. So what I do to get everything out of the threads is I put me a rag across there, and I just go down in there. Shove my thing down through there and blow it out. The rag catches it. All except for that part right there. I did that off camera. I didn't have my hole completely covered. So, we'll just go through and do that to each one of them. These kind of jobs take a lot of time. To do it right, you cannot rush yourself on one of these jobs. And, you know, some people don't quite understand it, but I cannot stress it enough. Don't rush your mechanic when they're doing a job like this, because this is a it's kind of a tedious job. I don't like to be rushed on these, because here's the thing: if I put this back together in a hurry and I happen to miss something, who's going to take the blame for it? You know, we've seen already that someone was in here before. We don't want to make the same mistake. And here's the other thing that bothers me just a little bit, is there's a lot of pitting on this deck surface. Now, I don't think that this one uses a multi-layer steel gasket, so we might be able to spray it with a little copper coat and get it to seal off. I don't believe that the customer wants to pay me to pull the motor and resurface the deck on this. I don't think that the pitting is bad enough to warrant that necessarily, but we do need to be a little bit cautious when we go back together. maybe add just a little bit of copper coat to it. If it's a multi-layer steel gasket, you don't want to do that. But if it's a regular composite gasket, you can do that. A lot of guys back in the day used to do that. I've done it in the past. You probably won't be too happy if you're the one taking the head back off the next time, because usually it does stick pretty good if you get the right copper coat. So we're just gonna continue to clean these, and then we'll make sure that this is good to go. Now, because we know that the deck surface is flat, we now feel comfortable taking this to the machine shop, the head, not this, taking the head to the machine shop and having them do a working over. So we'll probably have them go ahead and put new valve stem seals and do a valve job, make sure everything's sealed off, which they always do, but I always request it just to make sure. So yeah, again, if you feel more comfortable using like a long sander and going across there, be my guest. I've always done it with one of these Scotch-Brite pads, and I've never had a problem, but I also don't sit in one area very long. Got to know what works for you. The other thing that, you know, some people don't realize, maybe, is that if you have any kind of liquid in that head bolt, you could have a hydrolock issue, and that could cause the block to crack. Now you've just ruined the block. I've seen that happen already. So make sure all of those holes are cleaned out. Cleanliness is next to godliness. That's what I was always told. So we'll do that, get the head sent off, and then we'll be back once I get that all cleaned up. I'm obviously going to vacuum all of these cylinders out. We're going to make sure that that's all clean. Nothing's going to scratch up the cylinder wall when we go back together with it and start it up. So clean, and clean some more. Oh, and when you're leaving it set for a little bit, put rags across the top of it. You don't want anything to drop down in there. Okay, we've got everything ready to go back together. Now, I put out a YouTube short, and I kind of had a couple of guys comment that I'm going to have problems with the camshaft when I get done with this, because of course I didn't do something right. And I get where they're coming from. What they're saying is that this thing should have been clamped down and baked before it was milled. Now, I will tell you that the guys that do these heads, they have done these numerous times, often, exactly this style of head. They're very familiar with how this works. So I'm not concerned about what they did or did not do. Now, how they milled it, I don't know, but I will tell you that I have had this company do do heads for me for, well, over 20 years, ever since I got into it. And I've done overhead cams before, and I've never had a problem with them doing the milling and the work for me. So I trust them. I'm okay with their work, so we're going to go ahead and put it on. I'm not saying that I won't have a problem. I hope not, but like I said, so far I've not had any issues with them. So we'll get this thing put on, and let's get started on reassembly. So go ahead and put our camshaft in here. I've already put some Ultra Slick on here. And as you can see, it's coated the journals very well. Now, one of the things that kind of bothers me a little bit is I've dug a lot of red RTV out of a lot of these passages and things, so I don't like that. Red RTV doesn't have any place on a motor, in my humble opinion. I don't like the stuff. It has never worked good for me, and I don't recommend it. But that's just me. It's my opinion. And all opinions are. That's just an opinion. Opinions are like buttholes. Everybody's got one, and most of them stink. So there's that. Okay. There's that. Oop, come on here. Don't do that to me. Okay, so what we've got here is we've got manually adjusting valves. So we technically probably should loosen all of these, but yeah, I'm going to too. But let's go ahead and get those kind of snugged down a little bit so that it doesn't pop off of there again. This is a 1/4-inch driver impact, so it doesn't have a lot of torque. And I'm not even down all the way, so those of you in the comments down below already typing out how I'm going to run it. You know, just calm down a little. Okay, I've got the wrong size. It's supposed to be a 12. I forgot. It's Japanese. Okay. We're going to have to readjust these valves. So we might as well just go ahead and loosen them all up. Let's make sure that our camshaft turns freely. So we'll go ahead and loosen all of these. Turn them all off until the thing can spin freely. The other thing is we don't want this thing to have valves contacting the pistons. So I believe, if I remember correctly on looking on the manual on this thing, I believe they want you to adjust these when they're hot then too, which is kind of odd because most manufacturers want you to do it when it's cold. But I think they also want you to re-torque the head bolts after it's hot, so I hate when they do that. But it is what it is. We're gonna do it right, because I don't want to do it the second time or the third time. So what we'll do is we'll back all of these out where the camshaft can spin freely without any interruptions. We'll just make sure that our camshaft spins freely before and after the head's torqued to the block. It's still gonna hit. Bummer. I thought I could turn them out far enough to where they wouldn't, but nope. I don't think so. Nope. They've got quite a bit of lift now, let me tell you, but at least they're not gonna hit anything now. But this thing spins good. I have no problem with that. Without it, like, it takes very little effort to spin that. Okay, all right, so we've taken that all back off. And the reason for that is I just want to make sure everything's good. And we're going to put a little ultra slick on the top of the camshaft here as well, just to make sure. I don't want this thing to have an excuse for not working. Okay. Then the other thing we need to do, you got to be careful with this, but I feel like it needs it. We need a little bit of anaerobic RTV along this part and this part right here to the edge of this here, because there's no gasket. So, anaerobic gasket maker designed for this right here. Let's clean this all up. Like I said, I had red RTV in places that it definitely did not need to be. So we don't want just a lot of this, just enough. That's actually a little plenty there, so we'll kind of wipe that down a little bit. But we'll just needs a thin layer of it. And what this will do is this will allow for this thing to tighten down properly without keeping too much gap in our bearing, because this is also our cam bearing, or our rocker bearings. Cam bearings, sorry, cam bearings. I said it right the first time. Okay, so now let's go down here. This engine was just oily. You know what? Speaking of oil, we want a little bit on these threads. And I like to put a little up here as well, because it keeps the friction off of the clamping surface there. Thin 5W30 oil, that's all you need. Don't need any of the thick stuff on this. You don't actually want it either. Okay, so go ahead and get this done and torque to spec. I'll have to look, see what the specs are. I did have it, but I forgot it now, so we're just going to go back and look again. And there is a sequence for it too. And these should all thread in without any resistance. You don't want resistance of any kind. Okay. Just kind of rat-a-tat this down a little. All right, torque specs. Let's make sure that this is still moving. Yep, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. Torque spec on these, 13 to 20 foot-pounds. And they want you to start out at the edge. All right. Sixteen. 16. 16.2. 16.2. 16. 16. 16. Slow and easy up to your torque. If you know a torque wrench, you know that if you go fast, you can over torque it by quite a bit, actually. All right. Still as easy as ever. No resistance whatsoever. So I'm going to call that good. We're ready to go down with the head. Now, I have already cleaned I've cleaned all the head bolts with a thread chaser. So I did that off camera. That's pretty monotonous, but we've cleaned all the head bolt holes. As you can see, they're nice and shiny. Your head bolts should go in without any resistance. The head gasket is down. This is supposed to be the way it's supposed to go. You know, you want to make sure that you don't get it upside down, because you can get it upside down. No, you cannot. Your holes won't line up. So, good on Mazda for that. We're ready to go down with our head. This is exciting. All right. I put that rear plug in, just FYI. I did put a little RTV on there just because I'm paranoid about that plug coming out. Just make sure that everything's clean here on the surface of the head. You don't want to have to pull this back off, because the moment you torque this down at all, you've ruined that head gasket firing ring. It cannot be reused. So make sure you do it once and do it right the first time. Okay, now don't scrape this thing across the top. Okay, there it is. It's on there. Okay, now time for our brand new head bolts. We're using new head bolts. We wouldn't have had to, but I don't like to reuse old head bolts. Never know how many times it's been used previously. Just get with it here. We'll should have maybe pumped a little bit more oil. We'll kind of lube up that surface there. We'll put all these bolts in, thread them in there, and we're going to be on the road to Happy Town here just shortly, hopefully. So what I'll do is I'll leave these rocker arms loose until I get the head on and torqued down. That way I can check to make sure that there's no binding in the rocker arm. If there is, then we may have to redo the head. I have to straighten it out. I don't know. Supposedly that's the way we're supposed to do it, and maybe the machine shop did. I just know that they said they've done a lot of these, and I have had utmost confidence in them. I've said that once or twice, so I'm not going to repeat myself, but yeah. Okay, and this one goes in last here. Why, you ask? Well, because I forgot to put it in before now. That's why. Alright, all of these are threading in very nicely. Let's go ahead and zippy zap those on down. Okay. free as can be. I'm not torqued down yet, I know. I know that, I understand. 60 to 64 foot-pounds of torque. We're gonna go with 62 foot-pounds, right in the middle. So, oof. That's not the right size. What? Yeah, I guess that's a 17. There we go. We'll break it up in 2 different stages. It doesn't say anything to do it that way, but it's always a good idea to do it that way. Just go in a circle motion. We go to 30 the first time. Then we'll go to 64 or 62 the second time. Alright. Final torque down. I do like the fact there's no torque to turn here. Makes me happy. I don't like those. They're not as bad with these new style torque wrench. They're still kind of a pain. Okay. We'll leave that set for a little bit. I'll go across it again just to make sure that I didn't miss one. Now, question. Still just as easy as it always was. I mean, it takes almost no effort at all. You tell me. I hope we don't see it back here. I'm not going to say we won't. But I feel like I've taken adequate measures to try to avoid having it come back. So, let me know, I guess. Okay, let's clean this gasket off the front here. And we'll put our front cover back on. Also, we're going to put a new water pump on this one. So, we're going to clean up the front end of this thing here. Start buttoning everything back up. Honestly, this is a very easy job here, so I'll get everything put back on to where we need. Okay, so this one here, we're going to need a new seal installed. You guys know how to install seals, I'm sure, but there's a seal that goes in there, and there's another front cover that goes on here. So again, you want to be very careful with your RTV on these things. You don't want to use a ton of RTV. RTV, especially the ultra gray and RTVs like that, will cause a space, and that's why we used the anaerobic, is so that it flattens down, doesn't create any kind of space, but it gives us that assurance that you're not going to leak oil. That's the main thing. So, yeah, I'll be back. I'll be back whenever we get some of this stuff assembled, and then we'll get our valves adjusted. I'll bring you back for that. And, well, whenever I think you might find it interesting, I'll bring you back. All right, let's go over a few things that we've got here. Just put the timing belt, new water pump, all of that stuff on. I did use some RTV. Go sparingly on that because we don't want to have that stuff ending up in places we don't want it. So we've got it timed. As you can see, A needs to be lined up with that. The bottom pulley, come on, lined up with that. And it's perfect, as you can see. All right, so this belt doesn't need to be like really tight, but it needs to be tight enough to not be jumping time. We're ready to put the front covers on. ready to adjust the valves, and I will bring you guys back when I go to adjust the valves. Actually, you know what? Let's just go ahead and adjust the valves now. Alright, so we're going to adjust the valves on this thing, and just FYI, we're going to have to do this with it cold, and then once I get it running, get it up to operating temperature, then we have to reset the valves again. This is one of those rare motors that has to be done with the engine hot. Every motor that I've done prior to this has always been doing it when it's cold, so always read your instructions and do what the instruction manual says. Now this one here is going to be 12 thousandths on the intake, 12 thousandths on the exhaust. So we will get these adjusted. Now we've got number 1 on top dead center compression stroke, which means both of them are loose. Number 4, both of them will be tight. You'll see if you're cranking this thing over, you'll see that when number 1 is on top dead center compression stroke, number 4 back here, the valves will be, both will be starting to open as this one comes up on number 1 on compression stroke. So when both of them start to open, you know you're on top dead center compression stroke. Now that won't work on a V-series motor, but on an inline 1 and 4, and on a 6, 1 and 6. Now I don't know about the 5s. I don't know how those are. I think those are a little different, but 4 and 6 cylinder, you can do it that way. So we can do this in 1 revolution. So number 1, top dead center compression stroke, we're going to adjust number 1 intake and exhaust, number 2 intake, number 3 exhaust. We'll turn it 1 revolution to number 4 top dead center compression stroke, and then we'll adjust 4 and intake and exhaust, number 3 intake, number 2 exhaust. We're done until we can get this thing warmed up. When we get it warmed up, then we're going to pull the valve cover back off. We're going to retorque the head, and then we set the exhaust and intake, or set the valves again. So this is going to be a little bit of a process, but should be good to go once we get her done. So let's get to it. All right, so since I've already loosened all of these, we know that they're completely out of adjustment, which is fine. So we're going to adjust them with just a little bit of drag. Doesn't need much drag, just a little bit, and that loosened it up just a tad. So let's readjust. Oh, a little bit of drag. Perfect. Now we're going to come in over here on the intake, do the same thing over here. Should have just a little bit of drag, and beware that you're going to be pushing down on this screwdriver. That's going to create a little pressure on that as well. Okay, a little bit of drag. Now we're going to be looking at number 2 intake, which is going to be this one right here. Okay. Just a tad bit of drag, and then number 3 exhaust, which will be this one over here. Tighten down the jam nut. Now this, we're going to go back over these jam nuts after we get everything done and adjusted, and we'll torque them down once the engine's warmed up and everything. I'm just going to tighten them like that until I get the engine warmed up, and we readjust them, and then we'll come through and torque them down. So now we need to get this engine turned over to number 4 top dead center compression stroke. Okay, now As we see, the intake is coming up. Going back down. And as it's coming down, we should see the other one. I turned it too far. Oops. Exhaust. There we go. Exhaust is coming up before it's down all the way. The intake. So they're both teetering. Now number 4 should be on exhaust stroke. We can see that our timing mark is straight down. That is correct. Now we're going to adjust number 4. Intake and exhaust. Like I said, this is just to get us going so we can start the motor. It's not, doesn't have to be quite as exact as when we do it the final time. Tighten that down. Now we're looking at number 3 intake. It's going to be doing this yesterday afternoon, but my body said something different. I started with some chest pains on Sunday afternoon. Today's Tuesday, and it, you know, you'd think with me being a paramedic I would go get treatment right away, but I put it off as long as I possibly could. I would not recommend that. We make some of the worst patients because we try to self-diagnose and self-treat, but my heart was doing some funny things. If you know anything about it, my heart was throwing PVCs, which it's never done before. So out of an abundance of caution, we went to the ER and checked it out. Everything turned out good. Ended up, I've got some acid reflux. So took a little medication for that. Now I feel much better. And I've cut back on my coffee. Haven't had coffee for the past 2 days. I'm on the struggle bus right now, but we'll make it. Torque to specs. Okay, and those are going to be 18 inch-pounds once we get everything finalized. Not too worried about it right now. We're going to put this ground wire on back here. Tighten that down to factory specs. So we've got the valves adjusted, preliminary adjustment in right now. We're going to go ahead and put the valve cover on just so that we don't get any junk in there. I'll go ahead and put the, well, actually I'm going to go ahead and put the intake and exhaust manifold on first. Put the covers on, excuse me, and button everything up. We'll get the first start on camera. So as soon as that gets done, or I get to that point, I'll bring you guys back. Alrighty folks, the time has come for the first start with the new head gasket and remanufactured head. All right, I'm just going to go without this because now this thing died. I'm not sure what's going on, but what all did you guys hear? I don't know. So frustrating. Okay, let's go ahead and get these all torqued down. I know oh, it just throws me off so much when that happens. But we'll torque these down, get this thing put back together, get our timing light out, get that on here, make sure that our timing's on par. We're going to go ahead and get our throttle cable put back on. Actually, let's go ahead and, before we do that, let's put our new spark plug wires on. We can do that right now, right here. Okay, these are supposed to be fitted plug wires, so let's see if they are. Should be the shortest one, should be 1 here. One should be right here. Let's get this popped off. Get these switched out here. Then we'll repeat the process for the next 3. And should be good to go. Now these wires, plug wires, do need to be held up off of this EGR pipe here, because that does get hot when it's actually working. So we'll figure out a way to get that up off of there so that we don't have the problem in the future. I know that this one's supposed to be up here like this. That's not going to happen. This one here is still there, so we'll put that one on, and we'll get these things figured out one way or the other. All right, so we've got this timing light out. I dug this thing out of the grave. Haven't had this thing out for quite a while, but we have got a timing mark down there. I highlighted it with a yellow marker so that we can see it when it comes around. There's one for 5 degrees after top dead center, and then top dead center. The one I've got marked is top dead center. I'm having more problems with batteries this morning than you can shake a stick at. So what we need to do is we need to plug this thing. This vacuum line here needs to be plugged. We put our high quality plug in there, because we don't want that thing to be advancing or moving or advance at all when we've got this thing idling. So factory specs are 5 to 7 degrees before top dead center for timing. So let's see what we got here. Is 5 degrees after top dead center. It's at 5 degrees advance. Or, yeah, advance. So let's do this. We're probably about right there. So let's go ahead and this thing 55 to 7 is the wrong way. I can't adjust this thing the other way. We're probably there's where we want to be. Okay. Let's see where our idle is at right now. timing. That may have changed it. Perfect. About 5 to 7. Awesomeness. And we'll get this thing backed in and we'll put the thing up on the lift and see if we can figure out why our coolant temp gauge doesn't work. If I have to, we'll mount one in there if it's something in the dash. Yeah, as long as the customer okays it. But I really don't want this thing going out of here without a working temperature gauge. Alright, so we figured out why the temperature gauge doesn't work. I don't know how I didn't see that, but that is the thingamajig that's supposed to go into the sensor, and it is broke off. So that goes right on the bottom side there. I don't know if you guys can see a little bit of it sticking out. So we will have to drain some antifreeze, get that replaced. I've got a new one coming. The customer did say that it never worked since they've had it. So I told him that I would highly recommend that we put a new one on there. He readily agreed, said no problem, let's go ahead and do it. I unfortunately would not be able to warranty my work at all if that temperature gauge does not work, because if you know anything about engines, you know that the heat from overheating, if it overheated, that could have caused what we had here. So we don't want that engine to overheat. We want to know what the temperature is, and like I said, I cannot warranty anything if the temperature gauge doesn't work. So yeah, wisely the customer decided to go ahead and put a new one on there. Let me put a new one on. We'll get that in tomorrow. This thing's old enough, nobody stocks anything for it local here, but we'll get that one in tomorrow and we'll get that put on, and this thing should be good to go. When we get that in, I'll take you guys on a test drive down the road and we'll see how this thing runs. All right, we're back on this thing, and we got our new temp sensor in. This one, as we can see, was gutted and broke. There we go. The new one is going to be right down here. I think I might have showed you guys, but now that you can see, maybe. The way I did it is I pulled the battery out and I could reach up in through here with a wrench and get it out of there. The old one was a 12 millimeter. Of course, the new one is not a OEM Japanese one, so it was a 13 mil, but hopefully it'll work. Probably will. And looky here, we're gonna have toasted wires again. I need to tie those up a little bit. Let me get some zip ties. Get this kind of tied up here. Okay, I will cut that off later, but that'll let us go on a test drive for now. If my audio is a little different, it's because I don't trust my mic yet. I need to do a little work on that. I don't know why that thing didn't charge, but it's kind of annoying. So let's get this thing started again. Put this in there. Get this thing started, back it out of the shop. And by the way, the antifreeze level, I need to check it. Let's just go ahead and check it while we've got it in here, and it's cold. Check it here. There's no pressure on there, obviously. Yeah, it's a little low. Let's go ahead and get it filled up here. Add a little bit of the good stuff here. We can't dump it without making a mess. There we go. Let's make sure that our overflow canister is full, and it is not, so that part's working, because I had that full yesterday. Let's just go ahead and fill that up. Grab some more of this green antifreeze here, and let's dump this in, see if I can do it one-handed. Okay, this one here I will not be able to. I already know that. Hang on. Hey, stay. Okay, that is to the full mark right there. Pop that on there. That's full. That's full. And do we have any antifreeze dripping off the back here? Dry. It is dry. Okay, that's what we want to see. All right, I know this is a little awkward angle, but it's the best angle I've got in this single cab truck, and I gotta have both hands. Fires right up. I love how this thing starts up. Good old carbureted motor. All right, back this rig out of here. According to the temperature gauge, it's still cold, which I believe. I didn't run it much except just to drive it inside the shop. Close our door there. Well, gotta use. Gotta use. UPS man scared the daylights out of me. That's what he did. He come up off to the side here and he scared the living daylights out of me. Woo. Good thing the doctors just said my heart was good. Alright. Oh, we've already got our temperature gauge moving a little bit. We know that our temperature gauge is working then. Oh, 99,685 miles on the odometer, if you didn't know that. Oh yeah, our temperature gauge is working now. Perfect. Does this work? Boom! Alright. This little truck, I had an opportunity to buy this truck before the current customer bought it, but I opted not to. Kind of wish I would have now. It's a nice running little truck. I think it's all original. Yes, our temperature gauge is moving. I'll let you guys see it when we get back to the shop. We're just going to take it around the section, make sure that it doesn't overheat, anything like that, and see how it is. Like I say, this thing drives gorgeously. Is that a word? Gorgeously, beautifully, wonderfully, drives good, goodly. I don't know. I have a way with words sometimes. Not overheating currently. This thing's got an air horn on it. The air horn is more macho than the truck. But hey, this truck, this would be a good little truck to run back and forth to work with. I bet it gets 30 miles to the gallon or more. Everybody that came into the shop, not everybody, but a lot of the people that came into the shop, they're like, oh man, I had a truck like that back in the day. Good little trucks. Everybody bragged about them. One guy said that they used to, somehow they adjusted the timing and did some things and they were able to get quite a bit of power out of it. So they were delivering pizzas, according to him. So, interestingly enough, I guess, in Need a pizza delivery truck. Here you go. Steering is tight on this thing. There is absolutely nothing wrong with the steering on this thing. It should be a fairly clean truck now that we've got all the gaskets repaired. It was leaking oil like a sieve when I first got to it. I mean, you guys could see how oily this thing was. It had valve cover gaskets leaking. It had a head gasket leaking, obviously. But yeah, it's temperature gauge is staying right where it's supposed to be at. There's absolutely no trouble there. I'm gonna call this one a fix. And when we get back to the shop, I'll show you the temperature gauge. If you're still there for that, great. If not, then oh well. Or I might just throw it up right here, right now. But appreciate you watching. Thanks for being here. I apologize for the audio. Sometimes it just happens. I don't know how to. I try to keep close tabs on it, but I just don't always get it done. Of course, when I don't pay much attention, you know, I get comfortable with it, and I forget to check it, and that's when it acts up. But hopefully it turns out okay, and hopefully you guys aren't too mad at me. But this is a good little truck. I think this is going to be a win. The customer's going to be happy, and I'll catch you guys on the next one. Thanks for watching. Thanks for being here, and y'all have a wonderful day. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, and I'll see you on the next one. Goodbye. Alright, well, I do owe you guys an update on this truck. This thing is bound and determined not to leave my shop, so I think what happened when we had the carburetor off, laying off to the side, we probably dislodged a little dirt that was in it, and now it's stuck in the needle and seat, because this thing will not run. I had it, did a test drive, thought it was good. Let you guys, I mean, you guys seen it. I pulled into the drive, thought it was good, and it died on me. Figured out that it is flooding out. The thing is pumping fuel out the top of the carburetor, and it will not stop pumping fuel. Now, if I tap on the carburetor, I can get it to run good for a little bit, but then it goes right back to running poorly and flooding out. So this is one of those trucks that is starting to make me look bad, for one, and two, is starting to make me mad because it does not want to leave the shop. I don't know. I might make a whole other video on repairing the carburetor on this thing, so stay tuned. I'll see what I can figure out here, or what the customer wants to do.